Welcome to episode 120 of The Endless Stream. I'm Aidan, and this week I am joined by Eoin Wickham as we are recording this episode live from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We're going to talk about Oppenheimer, we're going to talk about Secret Invasion, and we're going to talk about The Bear Season 2, and we're going to do it from outside of a pub, so please excuse the traffic noise. I think it's pretty minimal. Like, you'll hear it, but the conversation's very clear. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast, heading over to Instagram, giving @TheEndlessCast a follow. And if you want to suggest something for us to watch or offer a different opinion, you can do that through the Instagram or sending us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. All that being said, let's get into the episode. Okay, so we are... We're day 3 on the Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland.
Day 3 on the Fringe.
We're a little late with the Endless Stream podcast because I flew to Scotland and the boys are very busy. But we're not going to miss many episodes. We're going to try and keep it going with what we have available to us, which is to say the bag of cats. So we're in Scotland doing a Fringe show for the month. And I'm joined by Eoin Wickham, filmmaker and comedian extraordinaire.
Yes, mostly an improviser.
Yeah.
Let's not pick me up too much.
Is there what's the distinction between an improv comic and a comedian? How do we...
I thrive on the support of other people.
Ah, okay. All
yes, right. I'm. I can only be funny when there's other people to be funny against. Well, that's actually not true. I think I can be funny on my own too, but I feel more comfortable being funny in a group. So that's why I prefer improv. But you are an improviser, Aidan, and you say you prefer stand-up.
I really do like stand-up. I love improv.
That's just a commercial food waste collection service there. We're currently recording outside of the pub that we're performing in.
Outside of the Kildurkin on what street is this? The Royal Mile?
We're at the end of the Royal Mile.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this from Edinburgh, come along to our show. We've done 2 shows so far, and they've been great, Aidan, haven't they?
They're only getting better.
They're only getting better. First night was good. Second night was excellent.
Yeah. Audiences were leaving with the sore faces from the laughter.
Yes, they literally said that to us.
Yeah.
So maybe we're funny, are we?
I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good. We just need to keep going and just build and build and build. Before we know it, we'll be doing great. I saw
Wow.
There was a little exchange. Wow, that is a truck. There was a little exchange on Twitter between Dara O'Brien and a person running a show here called Georgie Greer, I think her name was. She had one person show up to her first performance, and she went on Twitter and sort of said, is this what it's going to be? She was just having like a little moment of doubt. It's like everybody does when they come to this thing. Like the Edinburgh Fringe is famously a bit of an ordeal or a trial by fire. And somebody said, don't worry, your audience will double every night. And Dara O'Brien commented, if it does that, she'll have 1,700,000. She just did the maths that like doubling over 30 days is unsustainable. Dara O'Brien loves the math.
Yeah, and then she sold out the second night.
She did. Very good.
Yes,
good for her.
Good for her. Well, we've had a steady flow of punters, enough so that there is an audience, which and that people walk away going, I saw a show and I enjoyed it. So anyway, this is my first time on the Endless Stream podcast, Aidan.
Yep.
So tell me what it's about.
So the Endless Stream is generally myself, Kevin and Brian, 3 artists, illustrators, filmmakers, and all-around shit talkers. And we just look at movies and TV shows and nerd stuff that we love. And when last we released an episode, because there has been a gap now, we said we were going to watch The Mission, the Jeremy Irons, Robert De Niro, Roland Joffe directed film from like 1985. It's kind of a classic, but it was a blind spot for us. We'd never seen it. And I have since seen it, and Brian has seen it, and Kevin, I think, watched it, but we haven't had a chance to get together to talk about it. Have you seen it?
Not recently.
No.
No.
Would you have? Did you see it ever?
I think so, but I would not be able to talk about it.
Okay.
Gonna be honest there.
Yeah, and I don't expect you to. I'm kind of just giving you a little bit of like the roundup of the last time, and just on the off chance that you went, oh my god, I love that film. But my takeaway was, oh my god, that film's great. And the score is amazing.
Who's in the mission again?
Jeremy Irons is playing a Jesuit priest trying to build a mission in South America, and the representatives of the Pope are trying to shut the mission down to appease the Spanish and Portuguese royalties, so they don't go to war, and so they don't go to war on the church, and so they don't dissolve the Jesuit order. Robert De Niro is a slave trader and a mercenary who has a crisis of faith, basically, and converts to help support the mission. And there's a sort of battle for the souls of the people within that. I think there's, like, I'll have a longer discussion with the boys, but I think the best line in it is from the representative of the Pope, or of the Vatican. He looks at the native people of this area in South America and just says, I can't help but wonder if they'd been happier if we'd never shown up. And it's like, yeah, that's the point of it.
Yeah. Speaking of doing things that fuck up the world, we've both seen Oppenheimer.
Yes, that is what we sat down with an agreement to talk about. I went to see Oppenheimer yesterday in IMAX here in Edinburgh, in a nice little cinema just up the way. What did you think of Oppenheimer? Are you a Nolan fan?
I am a Nolan fan. I actually did not a thesis, but so I studied English and media studies in college, and when Inception came out, I absolutely loved it so much that there's a free show bed start. Just so.
It's okay.
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
We're going to be plugging our free Fringe show starting in here in 2 hours. No worries.
Anyway, that's the beauty of doing a podcast outside, eh?
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live in straight from the bowels of Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
The bowels. Anyway, Inception. So, I loved it. I watched it to death. I watched it so much that I started to see the many problems that are in it. Inception.
Okay.
Having said that, I still loved it. I can't remember what exactly my essay was about.
Right.
But because it's about 12, 13 years ago now that I did that. 13 years ago, I think.
Is it that long ago for Inception?
I think it was like 2010, was it? 2009,
So what's he had?
2010?
He's had Tenet and Dunkirk since then.
Tenet, Dunkirk, Batman, the other... When was the last Batman? The Dark Knight was it before Inception?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm bad on time
No,
stuff.
it's fine. Like, it's tough to
I
keep track
have
of.
not seen Tenet.
Okay.
I have not seen... what's the one in space?
Interstellar.
Interstellar,
I love. Tenet.
interesting, because I've been meaning to watch it, but my friend Alexis hates it with a passion.
Interesting. Is Alexis a sound guy or
no?
a photographer?
He's an editor.
Okay, he did some filming stuff for us.
He did some photography for us.
Yeah.
For our
Seen and Heard
theater show.
Yeah, Nolan gets shit for the fact that his stuff is not really concerned with the humane, the actual emotional states of people, and I guess he likes big ideas and immersive experiences, and I do see that in some stuff as well, where he's really shorthanding through like time periods and scenes of people's relationships developing just to get the building blocks of what he sees as the broader story across. And I don't know, some people hate that, and I'm like, I don't want every filmmaker to do that, but I'm okay with him doing it.
Have you seen Following?
No, is that his first?
That was his first one.
Yeah.
And he made it like for next to no money, It was the first film he did, and he made it basically on the weekends with friends. And I have to say, I think that's an incredible movie.
Okay.
I haven't watched it in quite a long time. I would like to watch it again, but there was a period. Obviously, I am a film nerd, so there was a time when I was kind of. There was a time when I would have said Christopher Nolan was one of my favorite filmmakers. I suppose as I've kind of matured, my taste has matured also.
Yeah.
And I think. I think Christopher Nolan is great, but I don't think he's the best filmmaker out there.
Yeah.
But to talk about Oppenheimer, I thought it was a fantastic film.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm going to read for you. Brian's review. He sent me just a little
Okay.
message through,
Okay.
and we can use this as a sort of bouncing off thing for criticism. Because I'll go into what I loved about it, and I can go into what I loved about it. Let me just pull it up. Okay. The first 45 minutes is like Batman Begins if Batman Begins was about a physicist. Then it's another 45 minutes before anything resembling dramatic or narrative tension makes an appearance. Then there's a full hour left, all about who was behind the hearings, like it's a murder mystery, but who fucking cares at that point? Then the end is typical Nolan montage of a piece of dialogue playing out over a scene we've seen previously, but now with new context. Interminably dull.
Do you know? I actually think that's a fair critique of it.
Yep.
And I think that
It's a fair breakdown of the moments of
Yeah.
the film. It's just whether or not the reaction he's having to them are subjective or objective.
I think there's the thing with Nolan. You either really like his movies or you don't like his movies, and I think people, if I get the impression that the way he's talking about it, he does not like Nolan.
No, I think he is mostly disconnected. He enjoyed the Batmans, but I think he even talks about, like, he'll look at Dark Knight Rises and start talking about, like that wall looks like cardboard, that gun is bouncing, like, how are they getting away with this bullshit? But he's got a very acute observational powers.
So I watched Oppenheimer in the RFI in Dublin in 70mm. I don't know if it's worth it, to be honest. Also, I did say that I was sitting in the second row, and I don't know if you know the RFI, but when you're sitting in the second row, you're practically looking at the ceiling. So it wasn't the most comfortable experience. And they need to do something about all the flies.
So what, you had a fly buzzing in front of the light of the projector? It was drawn to
There
the
was
light?
a fly buzzing all over it was on the screen, and it would just move around and like it would look like a piece of dirt on somebody's face, and because it was just, the fly would be massive.
Yeah.
And it took away from it.
So I don't think that, like, maybe I'm wrong here, but like we know that J. Robert Oppenheimer was involved in the Manhattan Project in creating the nuclear bombs, the atom bombs that they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we know that he became known as the grandfather or the father of the atomic bomb. Like, this isn't a movie that has spoilers. This is a movie that is an immersive, like, the music, the scale of the imagery, the in-camera effects that Nolan was pursuing. This is an experience type of thing. So I'm happy enough talking about every step of this film. I sometimes people are like, oh, it's a spoiler. It's like, what spoiler? Fucking Oppenheimer dropped the bomb?
was a person.
Yeah.
I liked how he told the story. I do like how he told the story. I thought the way, I'll talk about what I liked about it.
Okay.
One of the big things that I liked about it was the acting. I thought the acting was fantastic. I thought the dialogue was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Nolan is very good at writing dialogue. It's very real, visually stunning. And just as a complete product, it is amazing filmmaking, I think. I love the music. I like the music was brilliant.
Was that
and the
Zimmer
sound.
again, or was that somebody else?
I don't know.
He's worked with Zimmer so much. Can we just double check
Yes.
it? Because I have this vague feeling that, like, did he change for this, or did he work with his boys? Why would he change? What are you doing that's better than that? Ludwig Göransson.
Ludwig Göransson. Well, Ludwig Göransson, well done.
Yeah.
You
That's
did.
why I had a vague notion it wasn't him this time.
Yeah, you did a really good score.
Yeah.
Cinematography was wonderful. I loved. I mean, there is obviously Nolan is he insists on shooting on film. This film was shot on IMAX film.
He doesn't do the Video Village thing either. He does it like all in like eyepiece. He just looks through the lens and what he shoots is what he gets, and he goes to rushes, I guess.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah, I suppose it probably takes less takes with that. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, just commit to what you got.
Yeah,
keep moving.
I thought especially the black and white stuff in it. You know, you can tell it's shot in film in black and white. Like you can tell that woof. You know, this looks, and I thought they did a really good job of showing us the different time periods, like the different things that are happening at different periods of time without telling us. You know, it's kind of a bit of a pet peeve of mine in films when it's constantly telling us and not showing us stuff.
Yeah, I love there's things in there like we know that the first hearing in the small room is one period of time. We know the black and white stuff is one period of time. We know him with the longer hair. We know him when he puts on the hat. They make a whole deal of like be yourself but more, and when he finds that like image that became his kind of look, that became this public figure that he presented, and like he's basically like a Brian Cox character at the end of the day, isn't he? Just pushing science. If Brian Cox played keyboards and blew up Japan.
You mean Succession? You mean Logan Roy? Or
no, I mean the pop physicist.
Oh,
Brian
right.
Cox,
yeah, okay. I was getting confused there for a second.
Carl Sagan?
Yes, Carl Sagan. Yeah. I think they do a really good job of making a very flawed character likable. You know, he it's kind of a terrible thing that he did.
Yeah.
Like,
so here's something that just occurred to me. Like this was a shower thought this morning, because we talked about the idea that like there's a couple of nude scenes in it, sex scenes, love scenes with Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
And his playboy status, his womanizer thing was a part of his life. I think that maybe I was, again, in trying to justify the Florence Pugh stuff, it's like, if you can show me the relationship with Jean Tatler, I think her name was, if you can prove to me that was the nature of their relationship, it was heated, intermittent sexual encounters that like were that important to his life, maybe that justifies it. But there's, when he gets found out, when Jean dies and his wife is talking to him about it and he's having this little breakdown moment, she says to him, "You don't get to commit the sin and have us feel sorry for you." And that's about the bomb, right? That's nothing to do with the wife. Like, that's about, you don't get to blow up Japan and have us feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
And that moment as well, when towards the end where he goes through that whole trial and she turns around and says, did you think if you went through this, the world would forgive you?
Yeah. And I mean, there is, I think the whole kind of that last hour or so of it is him trying to find redemption in a way for, you know, like there is, there's a really good character arc there in the story. Like in the film, there's a really good character arc of him being this ambitious physicist who is actually is really bad at practical stuff.
Yeah.
And is only good at theory. and you feel kind of sorry for him at the start, and then as he kind of becomes this leader of and really advocating for the importance of the atomic bomb, and then once the war is over, advocating for it still. World War II ends, and he's still going, we still need to make the bomb. Even though...
Yeah, that's it. It's once Hitler's dead.
Yeah.
People are like, we don't need to do this anymore. And he's like, we've come this far.
That's a powerful scene, I think, that scene where he stands up and he's pitching to them, we still need to do this. There's still a war. And that is the point, I suppose, where you're like, okay, he was kind of for the greater good now, and now it kind of just seems like I need this for me, for myself.
That is really interesting about. I'm saying it's really interesting. I don't know if it's really interesting. This is where I start sitting on a fence like a weirdo. Why did he want to do this? Was it just about getting the visions out of his head? At what point was it more about him than it wasn't? The people we're supposed to dislike are the people who have him on a sort of trial, and they're yelling him at one point. At what point did your strong moral objections come into play? Is it only when your work was like? At what point? Like, you knew all along that this was a bomb that was going to... Like, at what point to your strong... What's the balance here? Where is the good and bad in this human being who is... has strong moral convictions but cheats on every person he's ever with, has strong moral convictions but also creates a bomb that kills thousands, has strong moral convictions but is fucking around with Strauss a little bit, like...
Yeah. It was an interesting... I saw a tweet recently, I don't know who it was from, but there was a tweet, or what... Are they still called tweets now? Or
I think
are
they're
they,
X's.
They're X's?
Yeah.
Are they just little kisses?
I saw somebody... I think I saw a South African person saying that X is pronounced...
Okay. Anyway, back to what I
Twitter.
was saying.
You
Twitter,
saw
tweet, an X. I saw an X, a little kiss, saying about somebody was saying that obviously they did the test of the atomic bomb in New Mexico, and they did the test of it in New Mexico, and somebody tweeted that out of so many people who were in that area was born around that time, and a load of people got leukemia.
Yep. They drove people off that land who lived there. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think Brian mentioned in an episode a few weeks back where he was sort of starting to like disconnect from Nolan, disconnect from the concept of even glorifying this man, that they stole the land from native peoples in the 1940s. And at that point he was like, they don't address it, and they very slightly do. It is an aside, but he goes, you know, what we'll have to do is they do say we'll have to push the Indians back 40 miles, and then there's a point where he goes, give it back to the Indians. And then the government's like, nah.
I suppose there is a question there, is like, is it glorifying him? Is this movie glorifying Oppenheimer?
This is... I don't think it's glorifying him if you actually sit down after it and think. I came out of the movie going, it glorified him. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, it isn't. The marketing is, though.
You ask questions. If you watch the movie and you come out of the movie, I mean, I'm not coming out of the movie going, God, that Oppenheimer was a really great guy who was misunderstood and, you know, just wanted to do the right thing. Yeah. I don't think that after watching it.
Right.
You know, I think he was a very flawed... I think it's an interesting... I love stories about flawed people. They're the best stories, you know? Yeah. And he's a very flawed person. And I suppose it does glorify him in a way that, okay, he felt guilt for what he did, you know? And... but does that absolve him of it? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, there's no... Like, it's... Oh, we're going to get a siren coming by now. In the same way, it's in the same way as knowing it's wrong to cheat on your wife, but doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
one thing I've noticed about Edinburgh, and I don't know if maybe Scotland, and that the sirens here are very loud.
Very loud, yeah.
Like, I think louder than they are in Dublin.
It's a busy town.
Yeah.
It's a busy town, and they
very busy
gotta
town
get
at
you
the
moving.
moment.
I was watching this movie as well. Well, what did you make of Downey Jr.'s performance?
I thought he was great.
Yeah,
Did you not?
I did. There were moments where I was watching it, and I guess it's just the cast, the character that was written for him played to his strengths as well in terms of how he got to be big.
Yeah.
You know, he gets to be like he has these small moments where he's academic, but he also gets this character who is, oh, that's the point I have to get. Rami Malek is in this movie in 3 places, and he has no dialogue in 2 out of those scenes, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy in this movie for?
Yeah,
And
then eventually he becomes this.
This white knight,
Yeah.
this thing just pops up, and it's like, oh, that's why he's here to be
Yeah.
this guy. He's still doing his thing. He's like, whatever the way his head works, it's very.
Can we talk about Cillian Murphy's performance?
We can, yeah. I also think we need to talk about Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt as well, who were great as well.
Excellent.
Emily Blunt is so good.
Florence Pugh is a fantastic actress as well. I think Florence Pugh she just inhabits a role so well. But back to Cillian Murphy.
Sure. Local boy.
I think this is the best performance I've seen from him.
I think the thing there is that this is him getting his moment to shine. Mm-hmm. Everybody has, like, Peaky Blinders has been that for him on television. He's 6 years of that. There's talk of a movie. It's done basically, but like when you think of his career through Disco Pigs, 28 Days Later, Batman, the Red Eye, where he was the psychopath, and then that relationship with Nolan. And Nolan has now just grown him into this position where he gets to front and center him.
He's made him a leading man, and because he wasn't a leading man, and Cillian Murphy wasn't a leading man.
Peaky Blinders allows Nolan to
that's
make him
true.
a leading man as well.
Yeah, that's very true. It's the nature of TV now that you know.
But it kind of puts him in that, like, not so much leading man. You know, it's not like he's going to be when you think of leading man, you think of romantic leads and heroes and stuff. But he's in that McConaughey Oscar rotate. You remember the McConaissance when there was like 4 films in a row where you're like, this guy's going to win an Oscar for all. It's like you could put Murphy in anything going forward.
Do you know what one thing I've seen talked about on the internet? Do you know that their HBO are doing a new Harry Potter series? So there's a lot of talk online that Cillian Murphy should play Voldemort.
I would hate him to do that. I can see it. I don't think he would, unless he just wants a paycheck for the rest of his life, because that show's going to run for 8-9 years.
Yeah,
that's a deck. He's going to have the bus clear. That, like, if they do the full HBO thing on that, 10 episodes a season for 8 years, string that out over long production runs, it's going to take 12, 15 to make and release. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of...
I don't think
Voldemort doesn't.
I don't think Cillian Murphy is about the money so much. So maybe he won't do it. I think if he did, he'd do a fantastic job with it. I think he has, like, Cillian Murphy has a really interesting face.
Yeah, he's done good stuff with it. he's done good stuff with an interesting tool set.
Yeah, that's the thing with actors. I think, like, you're either really handsome or beautiful, or you have a really interesting face. Yeah. Like, you know, obviously Willem Dafoe, Steve Buscemi, not John Buscemi, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro as well actually has a really interesting face. Yeah. They just have these, you know, faces also that you see in real life, and you can, you know, you look at just interesting people. But yeah, Cillian Murphy, he kind of looks like a villain. You know,
yeah. He does have a, like, he's got an intimidating glare.
It's the gauntness, you know.
Yeah, he kind of looks through you a bit.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was. I really enjoyed it, and I would go see it again. Like, and I kind of, I knew we were doing this, and I kind of was like, God, I wish I'd gone with you yesterday to see it again, so I could kind of really delve into it. And I do think it is a thing with Nolan movies that they do deserve a rewatch, and I did that with Inception so much. I watched it over and over and over again. Loved it the first time, loved it the second time, loved it the third time, fourth time was going, now I'm kind of seeing some shit that's like.
Do you remember the stuff about Nolan's brother got involved in like international fraud and was on the run from the CIA?
This is
or
Jonathan
the feds?
Nolan? Is it, or is his other Jonathan Nolan
It's
who
the
wrote?
other brother.
Because I think Jonathan Nolan wrote Inception.
So yeah,
And
they
he
work
wrote a
together,
lot
and
of the Batmans.
Yeah. No, he's got I think it's a brother. I gotta double check this, but like we were talking about this in relation to like DiCaprio's character as a guy who cannot return to the United States is kind of the brother. Brian is, I don't know how he'd like to be described, but sometimes I talk to people who have sort of hit a wall with seeing versions of films or stories or filmmaking techniques over and over again. You're like, this is boring, I've seen this. And I'm kind of the idea that like there is absolutely breakthrough ideas and new things that happen, but the majority of stuff is repetition. And if you can take the same ingredients and make it to a crazy high standard and make it engrossing, like for me that works. And I liked this movie a lot. I went in knowing a chunk about Oppenheimer, so I knew what I was going to see. Like, you're not going to, like, I'm going to learn a bit about his relationship a bit, but like I did laugh at things like the sweeping vistas, riding through the woods with his wife, or his wife finding him asleep under a rock, and it's like, I don't think that fucking happened for a
it is
moment.
a lot of,
he was sitting in an office somewhere.
Also the Einstein stuff. Like, I mean, how do we know that he actually said that to Einstein at the end?
That idea that like the car drives away and Einstein walks out of the darkness like Batman to give him a pep talk.
I loved the little Einstein cameos though.
Yeah.
I loved them.
It was great.
It was like because I found it really interesting as well, because Einstein is almost to me like a it's kind of hard to believe that he actually existed.
Einstein.
Yeah.
I like to think that like I want to watch two movies side by side. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and the Tim Robbins, Meg Ryan, Walter Matthau romantic comedy IQ, where Tim Robbins falls in love with Einstein's niece, and they drive around the countryside with Einstein going wahoo, driving fast on the back of a motorcycle. You ever see it?
No.
No, it's great.
Anyway.
Anyway. That's a fucking classic.
Yeah, okay, I must put it on the list.
Do you not love 90s rom-coms?
I know we're kind of got off topic,
Yeah.
but we're talking about filmmaking generally.
Yeah.
And obviously this podcast is called The Endless Stream. I would love to talk a little bit about The Bear. Oh, wow.
I just showed him the poster for IQ.
That's the poster for IQ.
He's a mechanic, and I'm trying to remember who her actual fiance is, but he's a dick who's like superior because of his intelligence. And Einstein and the number one physicists of this college, like four of them, like they Cyrano him, and they just start feeding him like physics things so that he can impress the niece. It's great. I love it to bits.
Okay, I need to watch that.
So basically, Oppenheimer. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
For me, thumbs up, definitely.
Are you still a Nolan fan?
Yes. I think he does what he does well.
But just before we get on to the bear, because I'm happy to talk about the bear.
Yeah.
The criticism of Nolan is the dialogue gets lost and it's all about fucking explosions and car chases and music. This was just talking. This was heads on screen talking. I heard every word and I saw all the faces. So he's, that's a move in a new direction, right?
Well, I mean, I think, I've said, I thought the dialogue in this movie was excellent. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought the performances were incredible. Yeah, I mean, I can't say, I actually do think, I do think that Cillian Murphy deserves an Oscar for this movie.
Okay. I think the guy's done amazing work since about 1996.
Yeah.
And if not this, he's on the path to it.
Yes.
So the bear.
Oh, the bear.
So you've just watched season 2?
I've just finished season 2 of the bear.
I watched season 2 and then I rewatched season 1.
Okay.
I loved it. I think the finale of season 2 is a little it's a little weaker than I would like it to be, because the finale of season 1 was so amazing. You could have closed out season 1 and never made another episode of it, and I would have felt like these people are on their way. The arc has been set. I've learned their stories. They're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Season 2 definitely feels like they know they're getting season 3, so they're just starting to hang threads for it. I would have loved if they'd closed the loop, but
I get that. I thought as just the characters in this and the attention to detail of that world, the being in that world, like, it just feels so fucking real. Like, it just feels so real. We were talking about that the flashback episode, the episode where the family have the family Christmas dinner, and it's kind of it's set as like it's the opening sequence of it and everything. It's called the Brazados. It's kind of a bottle episode, like,
yeah.
But I was talking about this with you, that I just think that the filmmaking in this is so fucking brave.
Yeah.
And like I was saying this to you about that there's a scene in that episode where everybody's talking over one another. I don't know how you do that as an actor, And it's just like that's so real. It's so real because people fucking do that all the time. People talk over each other all the time, and it got really, really fucking intense. Really intense. I watched it with my wife. We were sitting down watching it together, and she turned to me when it was a few minutes into that scene, going, I need this to stop. And then it did, a couple of moments later. But I really respect that. What's the Jeremy Storer? Is that his name?
Christopher Storer.
Christopher Storer. Sorry, I'm gassy.
Sorry.
Christopher Storer, like in that episode, I just think it was incredible filmmaking to go to it's real respect for the audience to go, okay, I'm gonna push it here, I'm gonna really make you want this to stop.
What I think is interesting as well is like the one of the lovely things that streaming has done is given filmmakers or people making these episodes the permission to just fuck around with the runtime.
Yeah.
Right? That episode that you're talking about, the Berzados or whatever, is that the episode name? Mm-hmm. It's 45 to 50 minutes long. It's like 20 minutes longer than the average episode.
Yeah.
In season 1, the penultimate episode, Review, is the most intense one, where they get order after order after order and they can't keep up, and Carmy is losing his mind and he's yelling at Sydney, and Sydney accidentally stabs Richie in the ass and she quits and she walks out, and the guy's making the donut and he's like, why are you fucking with me, why are you fucking me, and he throws it out of the hand. And just as everything is just gone, when he sort of crouches down and tastes the donut and has this moment of like, it's fucking perfect, and it ends, because I just rewatched it, 20 minutes. That whole episode is 20 minutes long. It's 10 minutes shorter than the average episode, because that's about as much as we could take of how intense they went with it. And it's just, I love that streaming has given filmmakers and television permission to do that.
Yeah, that is a great thing. We talked a little bit about the last episode of before we go on to the last episode, I want to talk a little bit about Richie. His arc in this season was just so wonderful.
Yeah.
That episode where he starts working in the best restaurant in the world and starts to really come into himself, and you know, just the character development is just so fucking fantastic. You find out, and it's trickled out along, you find out more and more, bit by bit, why they are this way, you know? And I just think it's done really well. And I'll actually, like, I would nearly compare it to the way that we kind of do improv, in a sense that, like, our form of improv is that kind of thing. The way that we develop characters is trickling little things into it, and then you know, so by the end you
learn something more
about the characters, you know.
Richie is this amazing thing because you hate him so much in season one. You hate him. And then you just start to see, you know, him telling the story to Mikey and with Carmy there, and then it cuts to him in season one on that date where he's telling the same story to the woman, and he's trying to be like, and then we were in this bar at 4 a.m. and it's Bill Murray, and she's like, I know, and she just doesn't get it, and he's like, but this is such a great thing in my life, and all she could hear was, you're in a bar at 4 a.m. And he's like, he just is shamed by his own existence and doesn't know how to grow into something else, and the frustration he sees as the world evolves around him, and him having to change, is you end up loving him. By the time you get to that episode where he starts to understand what Carmy gets out of the service industry, out of cooking, out of making something for somebody, and working as a team and keeping your shit in order so that you can help other people, I guess is the thing. You know, it's so satisfying to see the growth in it, and to see him doing, I can't remember the language of it, but there's a word for, like, calling the orders as they come, and he does that in season one. It's a fucking nightmare. And in season two, by the time he's willing, Sydney looks at him and goes, yeah, go for it. Like, she's accepting his change. Yeah, he's willing to humbly serve.
I love that little, the where when Carmy gets locked in the fridge and he just goes, okay, we're doing it, and he turns the table around, and just, it's, and the filmmaking there, I think, just find it incredible. And also, another thing about this series, the fucking editing, man, is like, the editing in this show is incredible. Some of the shots, there was one shot, like, I can't remember which episode it was, but it was Carmy outside, and it just is a little, like, it's a really, really fast track into him, and it's just a continuous shot, and you know, I noticed those things, and
there is some stuff in season two where I'm like, I am now deeply in love with the Chicago skyline, but like somebody worked on Boston Legal or something. The way that we're doing these shots of the windows and cuts and editing that together, I was like, oh, this isn't great. There's some ropey stuff where they were trying things. There's some stuff where it's like, this isn't the same guy that cut the city stuff together in season 1. They were like the rotational shot past the L train. Like, we needed like half of it, but we see it 3 times across the season. And there's a moment where Richie puts on the suit in that episode where they basically give us like a Men in Black crash zoom for like, let's put it on, the last suit you're ever going to wear. Like, he gets a like Will Smith moment, which is a little like, it's funny, but it's kind of out of tone for the show, you know? But the show's so good, I forgive it all of that,
And it's so funny, too, this show. Like, it's so funny. It's
the
so
Taylor Swift stuff in that same episode where he's talking to the daughter and he's like, I do like Taylor Swift. I was just, a little tired today. And then when he's finally happy in himself, he's driving through the streets at night banging Taylor Swift. That sounded wrong. But like he's just blasting Taylor Swift in the car. Sorry.
He said that didn't sound any better.
He's playing the music of Taylor Swift joyously as he drives through the city of Chicago.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a leg spasm.
Oh. Was it good for you?
No.
No.
It's very uncomfortable.
Oh. Do you want to stand up and walk around?
Yeah, I suppose I can.
Roving reporter.
Yeah, roving reporter. I just need to shake it out a bit. Okay. I'm very much looking forward to the next
Season. Yeah. I would like them to wrap it up. I don't like, as much as you want things to go on forever. I'm also just like, can we just like let's just close things out.
Oh yeah. Should we talk about something bad?
What was bad?
Secret Invasion on Disney Plus.
Buddy, you are hitting all my talking points. Secret Invasion is the worst thing that Marvel has done since Elektra. And even then, you kind of blame Fox for that, or whoever the hell made that, really. It's no good, guys. Come on.
It is truly, truly, truly awful.
Why are you wasting everyone's time?
You didn't even watch the whole thing, did you?
I did, but
you did.
I dropped off it after 2 episodes and had to wait till it was all out to watch it. And I was just like, I don't fucking care. When they shot Emilia Clarke, I was happy.
I know. So was I. We talked about this. I was like, oh, good, she's gone. I'm sure Emilia Clarke is a lovely person.
Yep.
I'm sure she's a very, very, very nice lady.
Yep.
I do not think she's a very good actress. I'm going to be honest. Certainly in this, she was not good. And to be honest,
there are performers who maybe it's a case of when you meet them in a period piece, it's very hard to see them in contemporary situations, and it's a little like what would you call it? Stereotyping, or what's the word I'm looking for? Where a
typecasting.
Anytime I see her just jeans and a shirt walking around, it's like, I know that's how she exists as a human in the modern world, but it just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that you're like, people have interesting faces. She has a face for a period movie.
She does.
Yeah.
But nobody's performance in this movie series was good. Not like the dialogue didn't allow it to be.
Yeah, the scripts are so wrong.
It's almost like it was written by AI.
Yeah.
And there was one particular line in this that just got me, and I was like,
oh.
I actually think I had to rewind to see.
Did I actually hear that?
Hear him say that, and it was Nick Fury getting fired, and he was like, Colonel Rhodes going, it's it, Nick, you're out, Nick, and he's like, I'm Nick Fury, when I'm out, I'm still in.
Yeah. Honest to God, it's so weird the way that like this was supposed to be the Nick Fury show that showed us what a badass he is, and like the Declan Shalvey run of comics. Declan, who's been a guest on the Endless Stream, he's comic book artist, comic book writer, did a run of Nick Fury comics. Irish fella, lovely guy. He wrote an amazing arc for this fucking super spy, this John Wick of fucking super spies, and somehow this show manages to undermine the validity of Nick Fury as Talos goes, you were just some paper pusher at a desk until I got involved with you. And it's sort of kind of presented Fury momentarily as this straw man held up by an association with the extraterrestrials. That, like, what reputation does he really have?
Yeah.
Other than, he met Captain Marvel first. And Olivia Colman's fucking bad.
Oh, there was another scene in this.
Not that she's bad, she's doing her thing, but the script's fucking terrible.
No. Like, you can't blame the actors for this. Like,
No.
it's the writing and the directing were terrible.
Yeah.
Like, there was one scene. There was a driving scene. Now, I generally, I hate driving scenes in anything most of the time because it's never realistic. Very rarely did they make it realistic. People don't look at each other as much as they do in movies. I understand why they do it, but it jars for me. It takes me out of it. But there was one scene in Secret Invasion where Olivia Colman is driving a car, and she's driving the car on a road, and she's constantly moving,
swinging her arms left to
her
right.
hands left to right, left to right, left to right the whole time.
For the listener, Owen is moving his arms left and right and has balanced the microphone.
Yeah, and it's like, what are you? If you were actually doing that, you would be swerving all over the road. Yeah. Like, what the?
Either that, or you need to go in and get your alignment checked because you got a lot of play in the steering wheel.
I watched that scene and I was like, Has nobody involved in this ever driven a car?
I do wonder if you could get an edit of, like, cars swerving down a street and just intersperse it with, like, moments of her going, and then a car doing this.
That would be hilarious, actually.
Let's see if we can dig out some footage.
But it's like, I just was like, I was watching that scene, it's like, I don't think Olivia Colman can drive. Because nobody drives like this.
But Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the same sort of, like, badass, mysterious, kind of matriarchal head of an espionage agency. And she just swans into scenes with a kind of smirky superiority that doesn't quite work. And I don't know if that's me being sexist because did Nick Fury do exactly the same thing and I completely bought it? Or did we just have a history of Nick Fury from the comic books that I understood and expected to see it? But I don't know who the Countess is, and I don't know who Olivia Colman's character is. So I'm kind of just like, who are these people? And why are they doing nonsense things?
And the resolution of the entire series is just ridiculous as well. So there's the I can't even remember what they're called. The
Skrulls.
The Skrulls. Yeah, the Skrulls are stealing DNA from superheroes to give themselves special powers.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Nick Fury has on his own headstone somewhere in Scandinavia.
This was written by a 14-year-old that saw a spy movie once.
Somewhere in Scandinavia, he has a graveyard. In a graveyard, there's a headstone with his own grave, and out of it pops out a little tube thing that is Captain Marvel's DNA.
Yeah.
That will...
But it's not even Captain Marvel's DNA. It's a cocktail of everyone's DNA, apparently, which is like, what?
What even did they call it? They call it something.
They might have called it the cocktail. I can't even remember.
They might have called it the cocktail.
I don't know what it was.
It was ridiculous. And then at the end, there's this big fight sequence between Emilia Clarke and Gravik, who is actually, he was in the Barbie movie, good actor.
Yeah.
But they just start, their arms start changing into Hulk arms, and
in the comics,
it's, oh my god, it's so ridiculous. It's just so basically these two people are now the most powerful superheroes ever.
Yeah, in the comics,
makes no sense.
So in the comics, the Fantastic Four fight an alien race called the Skrulls. They're one of the first sort of alien villains that the Fantastic Four fight. and they lose to the Fantastic Four. So the Skrulls devise a way of defeating the Fantastic Four by emulating their powers and sending the Super Skrull after them. And he's got their powers. He can turn invisible, put force fields, stretch, and hit things with rocks. Fun idea. Four powers, super villain. I'd watch a Fantastic Four movie with a Super Skrull villain, rather than Galactus, which is, I think they're going, why does everything have to be a global fucking scale issue every fucking time? The solution or the implementation of the Super Skrull concept in the Secret Invasion took every single stupid fucking superpower you could possibly give Emilia Clarke. Like, Captain Marvel is held up as the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe repeatedly, her and Wanda. So she has her powers, and she has Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian, all of their powers. She's got Groot, she's got Gravik, she's got, not Gravik, but she's got Dave Bautista's Drax.
Drax, yeah, she just comes out. We talked about this, the Drax arm, and the Drax arm comes out with the tattoos on it.
Yeah, because tattoos are genetic. I'm at this point where, as much as the streaming boom has created great stuff, it's also given people that are just not ready to be making stuff at that level room to do it. Now, could I do it better? I'll always say no, but I'm also not being given permission to do it.
Yeah. I really, really, really hope that this show gets cancelled. And
it's done. That's it. There's no more to it.
It is. That's
it.
Like,
There's no
good.
season 2. It was dog shit.
Terrible. And they need to write it out from. They need to obliterate this from canon as well. Like, it makes no sense in the Marvel universe.
At the end of, I'm trying to remember them all now. At the end of the Winter Soldier, that's the one where S.H.I.E.L.D. has been completely fundamentally compromised, and Nick Fury runs away, and everyone thought he was dead by the end of it. And there's the gravestone, and so him having this scene in Secret Invasion where he's like, "Oh, this gravestone? I got these all over the place." It's like, why are we undermining everything we went so far to set up?
His explanation for why he did not get it, like, it was, why don't get you? What was it? His wife in it. Why don't you get all your friends down to help with this? Yeah. And he's just like, I don't want to bother with them with this.
This is a human problem. We have to solve things ourselves sometimes.
It's like, fuck off! No. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? You need a better justification for it. It's like in the Star Wars movie in it's not in the Force Awakens. Is it the Force Awakens anyway?
Phantom Menace, the midichlorians.
No, okay. It's the new.
Okay.
It's the last trilogy, where the
keep eating that thing. Just because I know people wear it up here, so
you know the stormtrooper character, Finn.
Yeah.
His justification for doing stuff, it's like, it's just the right thing to do. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Nobody does shit just because it's the right thing.
Especially if they've been raised and brainwashed into a character without any context for right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This series is just filled with plot holes and bullshit. It's just
and undermining the world and the universe that they've set up because the writer doesn't know enough, doesn't care enough, and isn't good enough. And that's me at my most fucking controversial because I don't know, Marvel isn't hiring me, so I'll say it. I'm also not applying to work for Marvel, but like, just. Guys, come on.
Do better. Do better.
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, the hope is that this writer's strike just makes people calm the fuck down and take a step back.
Ant-Man also, very bad movie. Have you seen Ant-Man? Quantumania?
It was fine. There's bits in it I enjoyed. There's bits in it where it's like, that doesn't work. You're just doing too much. The Marvel universe worked perfectly when Kevin Feige was overseeing a film a year.
Yeah.
3 TV seasons, 2 films a year, you can't keep up. And they won't want to. Like, you remember they fired or they resigned or she let go. Like the person who was heading the visual effects departments left. And she's been in charge of them for 20 years. And it's like, oh, she dropped the ball. And it's like, did she drop the ball or did you quadruple her workload?
It's Miss Marvel was great though.
The TV show.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed a lot of that, except for the fact that they somehow created a
That's
global.
Michael Sullivan just miming at us. He's walking away to. He's another member of the Bag of Cats.
Miss Marvel was really fun. The world was really lovely. I loved so much about those characters. We did not need a global threat. We needed her supporting in her neighborhood and making sure that the mosque was fine and like helping her grandfather who got mugged or something. Her doing superheroic things at a neighborhood level would have been such a fun, sweet, endearing show. And people like government agencies coming to look for her because she's got superpowers was enough of a threat, enough of a thing of interest. The fact that we had global spanning issues immediately, like again, I love comics, I love sci-fi, I love Marvel. I want them to do great. Relax, let them cook, slow down, ease into these things. Just take your time.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about or talked about is that like there's characters that we're starting to see in movies now that I watched them introduce in an animated series 7 to 10 years ago, and I'm like, they know that the people that are watching this at 5 years old are gonna love them in the movie in 10 years' time, and that's generational thinking. And if you can, like, fucking, I'm sure it's an Aaron Sorkin line from a movie somewhere, because like he uses the same quotes over and over again, but it's like, you know, progress happens when old men plant trees they know they'll never see grow. And fucking think generationally with this shit, and it'll be better.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
That enough?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for doing this.
So we've talked about Oppenheimer, The Bear, and Secret Invasion. Oppenheimer gets a thumbs up from me. The Bear gets
big thumbs up.
Big things up.
Things up.
Things up.
Okay.
And Secret Invasion.
Fan of Carmi, are you?
Secret Invasion gets an absolutely massive.
Flaccid.
Yes.
If you're in Edinburgh and want to see some improv comedy, come down to the Kildurkin at 10 o'clock. We're here all month.